Kitchen Underground. I'm Audrey, and I'm going to be showing you how to make a few fast, delicious, and healthy recipes. I don't know about you, but there's nothing I like more than coming home to a home-cooked meal. Hot, fresh, and ready to eat. So today, I'm going to show you how to make something that you can prepare a few hours in advance, leave it on the stove, and easily reheat it. It's black lentils and split peas. And for those of you not on a New Year's cleanse, I'm going to show you a sweet treat as well. For dessert, we're going to be making gluten-free coconut chocolate chip cookies. They do have a little bit of sugar in them, but they're still healthy and delicious. So let's get to know our ingredients a little bit better. Many people are probably familiar with lentils, but more in a stew or soup context. These are black lentils, and I love to use them in cooking because they don't get as mushy as red lentils or green lentils. They keep that al dente, that little bite that you get at the end if you don't overcook them. They're also really rich in many nutrients, including protein, iron, and they're really high in dietary fiber. And they keep your blood sugar levels from crashing a few hours after you eat them. We're also going to add in a half a cup of split peas. This just kind of changes up the textures. While the black lentils have an al dente bite to them, these are going to be a little softer and it'll just change it up a little bit. To add a little bit of flavor, we're going to add some leeks and garlic to the lentils, and at the very end, some fresh cilantro. I know a lot of people in the new year try and eat healthier. They make resolutions to go on detoxes and cleanses, maybe work out, and this is all great. I'm not quite as disciplined to do that, and I like to balance my food, but I do believe it's good to give your body the nutrition that it needs. Not only do the lentils themselves contain iron and tons of dietary fiber, but the other ingredients that we're putting in are very detoxifying, such as the cilantro that we're going to put in raw at the end. It's going to cling to all the heavy metals and other toxins in our body and flush them out. The garlic as well. However, I like to balance my clean eating with some treats as well. That's why we're going to make some cookies. But they also carry some health benefits as well, such as the coconut that we're going to put in them. While coconut used to be believed to be a food that wasn't as good for you because it's so high in fat, it's recently become a superfood. This is because the saturated fat that's in it, lauric acid, is actually extremely good for you. Not only does it boost your metabolism and keep your energy levels up, but it also protects against heart disease. It comes in many different forms, and in these cookies we're going to use unsweetened coconut flakes as well as coconut oil. So let's get started. To begin, let's preheat our oven. We're going to turn it to 350 degrees. We're going to start with the cookies because they take about 30 minutes to chill in the fridge. So we'll whip up the batter, put them in the fridge, and then we'll start our lentils. The first thing we want to do is turn our solid coconut oil into liquid form. You can either do this in a microwave or on the stove top. I just scoop some out, put it in a cup, and we're going to use half a cup of coconut oil for this recipe. I like to use the extra virgin coconut oil. And this I actually just bought at Costco, which is a lot cheaper than the grocery stores. And here at my mom's house, we do have a microwave. At mine, I don't, so I just simply heat it up on the stove top. As you can see, our coconut oil is liquid now. You don't want to overheat it because you don't want it bubbling and too hot for the recipe. So in the microwave or on the stove, it just takes about a minute. For this recipe, we're going to use 2 cups of gluten-free flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, a half a teaspoon of salt, a half a cup of brown sugar, a half a cup of white sugar or evaporated cane juice, a half a cup of coconut oil, a half a cup of shredded coconut, and a cup of chocolate chips, and a 1/4 cup of cold water. First, we're going to combine all of our dry ingredients into one bowl. I like to use the Bob's gluten-free flour mix. You can also make your own, or if you're not gluten intolerant, you can also just use spelt flour or regular all-purpose flour. So we're going to put our 2 cups of flour into the bowl, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, and half a teaspoon of salt. And just give them a good stir. If you're going to be really precise about it, you can sift them so that you don't have any lumps in the cookies and everything gets mixed very well together. I'm not quite that precise when I bake, so I like to give it just a good stir. Now we're going to combine all of our wet ingredients into our mixer. You can also just hand mix these cookies if you don't have a mixer on hand. Next, into our KitchenAid, we're going to add a half a cup of evaporated cane juice or just white sugar, a half a cup of brown sugar, and a half a cup of coconut oil. Then we're gonna mix it until it's combined. Next, we're gonna add in our dry ingredients, our flour and baking soda, baking powder, and sea salt. And then after that's all combined, we're gonna add in our chocolate chips and our coconut, stick it in the fridge to chill for about 30 minutes or even up to a few hours, and get started on our lentils. We're gonna give our chocolate chips a little chop because these are pretty big chunks. If you have smaller ones you can, or if you like really big bites of chocolate, that's great as well. So we're gonna use 1 cup of the chocolate chips. Just a rough chop is fine. Now we're gonna add in 1/2 cup of our shredded coconut and 1 cup of chocolate chips. Next, we're just gonna give it a stir with our spatula and make sure everything's incorporated. Then I'm gonna stick it in a smaller bowl and put it in the fridge for about 30 minutes to chill. Putting it in the fridge just gives the coconut oil a chance to re-harden, and when you bake the cookies, you'll notice a big difference. We're ready to start our lentils. The first ingredient we're gonna do are leeks. We're gonna use 1 leek, depending on the size. This one has a pretty large white and light green area, and that's the part of the leek that we wanna use. If it only goes up to about here and the rest is dark green, you might wanna use 2 to 3 leeks. We're gonna set it flat on our cutting board, cut off the root, and cut off to where it just starts to turn dark green. Then we're gonna peel off the outer layer, give it a good rinse, and cut it into small little matchsticks. It's time to cut it into about 2 to 3 inch pieces. Then you're gonna lay the flat edge on the cutting board and slice down the middle. Then you're gonna place the large flat part of the leek on the cutting board. And as you can see at this point, there's different layers in the leek. So you're gonna simply run your knife in the shape of the leek, kind of like a half moon shape. This will then turn the leek into about matchstick pieces. Next, we're gonna pluck 3 to 4 cloves of garlic off of our head. Then we're gonna lay it flat on the cutting board and kind of press down on it to smash it. This will allow us to easily peel the skin of the garlic off. Then we're gonna lay it on our cutting board and just cut it into slivers. By just cutting the garlic into slivers and not mincing it, it doesn't create that pungent kind of acidic taste to the garlic. Our leeks and our garlic are ready to go. We're gonna turn our saucepan on to high and let it get really nice and hot. Then we're gonna add about 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And once that's heated up, we're gonna add our garlic and leeks to the pan. After our leeks and garlic are in the pan, we're gonna saute them until they're translucent, so about 5 or 6 minutes. After that, we're gonna add our lentils and our split peas. Saute those so they get a little bit of toasted flavor on them, and then add our vegetable stock. Even though we're not using this portion of the leek today, I like to save it and make vegetable stock out of it. Or I like to put it in beans when I cook them on the stovetop and then remove them once the beans are cooked. While our leeks and garlic are cooking, we're gonna give our lentils and split peas a rinse. In this recipe, we're gonna use 1/2 cup of the split peas and 1 cup of the lentils. As you can see, the leeks and garlic are starting to get a little brown and translucent. So they're almost ready to go. To this, we're gonna add our split peas and our black lentils. Then we're gonna add 3 cups of vegetable stock. And if you don't have vegetable stock, you can just add water. And if you do this, just add a little bit extra sea salt to it. I like to use the Himalayan pink sea salt. This is because it contains all the minerals and nutrients that the salt naturally has occurring. Once the lentils come to a boil, turn it down to about low and bring it to a simmer, then put the top on it and cook it for about 20 to 25 minutes. While our lentils are cooking, we're gonna finish off our cookies. The dough should be nice and chilled by now. Our cookie dough is looking good. The next step is to roll into about tablespoon-sized balls and then roll it in coconut. Next, put it on the cookie sheet and bake it for about 11 minutes at 350 degrees. Another great thing about vegan cookies is you can eat them raw. Now that our cookies are rolled in coconut, they're ready to go in the oven. This recipe makes about 24 cookies, depending on how big you make them. Our cookies should be about done, so let's give them a look. They look perfect. A little golden brown on the outside, but nice and chewy on the inside. Now we're just gonna put them on a cooling rack so that the bottoms don't get soggy, and set them aside until our lentils are done. It's been about 20 minutes, so let's check our lentils. The lentils should have absorbed the liquid by now and be nice and tender. So as you can see, most of the liquid is gone. Let's give them a stir. I like to taste them right now, just to make sure that the flavoring is right. If I need to adjust it, maybe add a little more sea salt or pepper, and just to make sure they're cooked. They're tasting good. In our lentils, we have 1 cup of black lentils, a half a cup of split peas, 3 cups of vegetable stock or water, 1 teaspoon of sea salt, 1 teaspoon of cumin powder, and a half a teaspoon of chili flakes, 1 large leek, and about 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. I like to add a little bit of cilantro to add some garnish and also a little bit of fresh crunch and flavor to it. Once our lentils are done, I like to add a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. This adds a little bit of creamy flavor to them, and it just kind of smooths everything over. To finish it up, we're just gonna chop up some cilantro. And there you go, some tasty, healthful lentils for a cozy night in. And to satisfy your sweet tooth, some gluten-free chocolate chip coconut cookies. Eat and enjoy. And join me next time on the Kitchen Underground.